Great taste. Sweet. Sour. So good to taste. This is great taste. Great tasting.
Hello, Fairfield. Here we are again at Hy-Vee with another exciting episode of Great Taste. Also presented on KRUUFM.com and KRUU at 100.1 on your FM dial, and also on the Fairfield Media Center channel, which would be Channel 9, I believe, in the area, right? Okay. Really, without further ado, let's have some good food tonight, some great taste, and let Mr. Steve Boss take it away.
Thank you, Mike. You guys did good. You can come back, okay? That's good. Now, I have a question. I'm Steve Boss. This is Great Taste on Crew FM. We are solar powered. We have James Moore right over there, the station manager engineering for us. And we are live at Hy-Vee with the Indian Hills Culinary Crew right here. And my co-host, Kathleen Dubois. My co-host, right. Co-host, Kathleen Dubois. So I have a question. And this is for you, because I'm very interested to see what kind of perspective you have as a woman, all right? This is not a trick question.
Scaring me.
Well, it's not a trick question. So I was in Atlanta over the weekend, all right? And I went to a demo that Curtis Stone did. Now, does anybody know who Curtis Stone is? Okay. Does anybody watch his show, Around the World in 80 Plates? It's on Bravo. Well, if you watch it, you're going to miss the finale because it's going on in about an hour. So, anyway, if you haven't set your recorder, you're toast. But Curtis Stone was there, and he was doing a demo. And I was in the audience. And I noticed that the audience was full of all these women who were basically, they had their tongues out sometimes, and they're ogling him, and...
Is it the food or him?
Well, that's what I was trying to find out, so why, what's going on here? Why don't we have that same type of thing happening? I want to know from a man's perspective, why isn't that what's going on here? Because what does Curtis Stone have that I don't have?
It is happening here.
Is it really?
Yeah, you're just not aware of it.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Okay. I feel so much better. We can continue now with the show. Oh, and there he is. Curtis, thank you for coming. Dennis Lott brought a standee of Curtis into the room. That's
okay,
wonderful.
now we have a picture of Curtis.
Oh, what we can do? All right, how many people think Curtis is really handsome and you want to really just, be excited having him in the room now? Oh, nobody. Okay, great. And how many people are glad that I'm the host here? Okay. All right. I thank you very much. Anyway, that's enough of the comic relief. We can go. Two of these students just came back from Spain, where they spent
Which ones are they?
Sarah Valentine.
No, we have to guess.
Oh, sorry.
Who looks more Spanish?
I don't think any of them do personally, but Sunny Gail Manivang, right? Did I do that bad?
It's okay.
Gail Manivang.
Just Gail for short.
Gail. Beautiful. Sunny, Gail, and Sarah Valentine just came back from Spain, where they spent 2 weeks. We're learning all kinds of great things, and they're going to tell us a little bit about that. And I think you're going to share, I hope, some of your late night adventures. I'm sure those were fun. So, and also Kurt Gowdy is here, who has been a tremendous coordinator for this particular show. We do a show with Indian Hills every month, and he's been doing that for us for a number of months now. And Megan Morris is also with us, and every one of you guys are going to cook something, right? No, Megan, you're not going to cook anything? You're here moral support. Beautiful. So you have to use your mic when they talk to make sure that they're on. Kurt's mic'd, I think, right? Kurt's mic'd. So you want to say something?
Not right now.
Okay.
Radio.
Remember the pep talk that I gave you guys before we started, right? This is, you got to be on, right? This is fun, and it's showbiz. So you got to be, because look, Jason's over here with his TV camera now. Anyway, tell us a little bit about Spain and your experiences, because I'm sure, have you ever been to Spain before, Sarah, for example?
No, this was actually my first time out of the country.
And
it was amazing. It was, when we got there, it was a complete culture shock, but once we got used to it, it was a really good experience.
And tell me why. Tell everyone, why was it a culture shock?
Because the way they live is completely different from the way we live here. Here we live a very fast-paced lifestyle. They're much more in touch with their lives and their food. They're much more in touch with their food. We just eat to consume, and they eat because they love to eat. And I think that was the biggest piece of culture shock. And also the architecture there is just mind-bogglingly different from here, because here it's all contemporary, and all the buildings are 100 years old. You know, there's so much more history there. America is such a young country. You go there and you can feel the history in all the buildings and the countryside.
And where were you exactly in Spain?
We were staying in Valladolid, but we went to Segovia, and we went to Galicia, and we went to Salamanca.
Did I mention that everybody should turn their cell phones off or not? Since I just heard something, but it sounded like it was the oven. Okay, really. And Sonny, what about you? What were your impressions when you first got to Spain? Had you ever been traveling before outside the country, other than, were you born in Laos?
No,
No,
I was
okay.
born here in the States. It was my first time on a plane, and let me tell you, it wasn't the best experience for me.
Was there anyone sitting next to you?
Luckily, I sat next to one of my classmates the whole time, so that kind of made it better. It's just the turbulence wasn't the best thing for me. Mm-hmm. But the one thing that really surprised me from when I got off the plane from Spain and I stepped outside, you take that first breath in a new country and you can just tell immediately that it's completely different, that you're in a new place. The air, I can tell you how it feels to go to Spain and tell you about all my adventures, but you can't really understand it unless you really go for yourself.
How many people, by the way, have been to Spain that are here tonight? Oh, quite a few people. Okay. Have any of you been to the cities that he mentioned, Valladolid, Segovia, and where else?
We went to Valladolid, Segovia, Salamanca, La Guardia, which is very, very close to Portugal, like right across the river. And we just traveled. We stayed mostly in Castilla y León, which is where Valladolid is. It's a pretty big province over there. They consider it like our county. And we spent most of our time there, but we went to the beaches, and we went to a jamon factory, foie gras factory.
But not the kind of ham we're used to.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely not. But we went to a lot of historical sites. We went to a couple castles, a foie gras facility, I should say. They showed us how they raise their ducks, and a lot of people here in America think it's a very bad thing, force-feeding the ducks. But the guy explained to us that that type of duck is raised to where it's used to getting things stuffed down. It's yeah.
It acts like me a lot when I'm eating, probably, just stuffing food down my gullet. Right. Interesting. And where else did you go? Did you go do a lot of late night eating? Because don't they eat very late at night in general in Spain?
The moment we got off the plane in Madrid, we went to Segovia, and there we had a tour, and right off the bat we went to one of the oldest restaurants in Spain, about 300 years old, I believe is what they told us. And there we had suckling pig. It was the first time I've ever had it, and it was delicious. And then they also gave us wine. And we had a little fun with that, maybe a little too much, but
So when students are out of the country and they're not 21, they can still drink wine? I'm just trying to find out. It's point of interest, just.
Well, yes, in Spain the drinking age is 18.
Got it. Okay.
So we went out a couple nights to drink.
Just a couple.
Yeah, just a couple.
Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Good. Because your schedule was very rigorous, wasn't it, during the day? Tell us a little bit about it, Sarah.
Well, our classes started at 9 o'clock in the morning. We started with a Spanish class for an hour, a Spanish language class. And then we were in the kitchen all afternoon until 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. We were in the kitchen cooking. We actually put on a dinner for some of the ministers of Valladolid. So that was a crazy experience, serving some of the most important people in Valladolid.
So was it a little scary or not?
It was. I was the wine sommelier for the day, and it was frightening serving these people.
And did you have to speak in the limited amount of Spanish that you knew? Or
I
what?
did.
Did you know anything about wine?
A little bit. They told me the name of the wine. I could say the name of the wine to the people.
That's great. And you have a recipe book that you came back with.
I do.
It's somewhere around here. I don't know. Oh, yeah. Okay. So these were all the recipes that you learned, and you're going to fix a couple of them tonight in addition to a couple of other things, right? So who wants to tell us? Kurt, can you tell us a little bit about the menu?
Steve, tonight we've got a Spanish omelet with potatoes and onions in that. And then we're going to go into our Moorish-style garbanzo and spinach stew. And then we have a pork dish that Sonny's kind of working on a variation of a recipe that they brought back. And then we're also attempting to pull off some bonbons, but with the weather change, and making them at school and hauling them here, no matter what refrigeration you put on it with chocolate and changing the temperature. You run into tempering problems and getting them to set and come out of their molds correctly. So,
well, we'll see how you do, huh?
And then, we're going to see how that turns out. And then Sarah's got a yogurt mousse recipe that she seems to be really enthusiastic about, that she's insisted that we do.
Excellent. That was one of the things that you learned then? The yogurt mousse.
Yes, it's actually, if you remember Chef Julian, who was here, it's one of his recipes. He worked with me on it in the school.
So Chef Julian Herranz was here about, 6 months ago maybe? And he actually did one of the shows on, one of the Great Taste shows on Crew, and made one of the most unbelievable desserts I've ever had in my life, and I'm not kidding. I mean, he's a pastry chef in Spain, and his family has a pastry shop that's very famous, and it was just outrageous. It was so delicious. It was a take on cheesecake, but it really had nothing to do with cheesecake that I could tell. And did he make that again when you guys were there by any chance?
He did not make that, but if you remember the wine reduction syrup, the dessert I'm doing today, the yogurt mousse, I actually didn't have all the components. He had like a piece of cake that he put in there, and he had the cookie crumbs on top. He took that wine reduction sauce and he made it into a gelatin, and we put squares of the wine reduction gelatin on top. So I did see some influence from that dish while we were there.
So we're going to ask you, or I'm going to ask you, a little bit later what the most important things were that you learned on your trip. So that I think that would be wonderful. You could share that with everybody. And now we're going to let you just get going and make some food for everyone to taste a little bit later on. One of the things that I want to clarify, those of you who have been to Spain should know this, and that is that when they talk about a Spanish omelet, it's a tortilla. It's not a Mexican food that we are familiar with in terms of a tortilla, but a Spanish omelet is a tortilla, and that's what we're going to have, one of the things that we're going to have tonight. So go for it, guys, and we've got some other business to take care of. One of the things I want to mention is that at some point this evening we're going to give away this book. This is a book called Heartbreak Recovery Kitchen, and we've had these two individuals on the show before, Jeannie Ambrose and Lindsay Ambrose, and it's a great book. It's a lot of fun. It's actually hilarious because it has to do with, people who might need a little help because of how they're feeling. When life hands you lemons, for example, is one of the chapters. There's all kinds of different chapters. If anybody needs chairs, maybe we can get a couple more. So this is a pity party the morning after when life hands you lemons. Craving comfort, garden therapy. Life ain't no picnic unless you make it one. So somebody's going to win this, but you're going to have to probably work for it. By the way, I wanted to ask you guys, do you need anyone to help you cut up some things?
I think we're pretty well...
Well, that's the wrong answer. So do you have some things that need to be cut up still? Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Excellent. So we need two volunteers.
Crack an egg or
Two volunteers. Nah, I don't know about you, Shrum. Okay, there's one. Now we need one more. One more volunteer. We need a female. Come on. Thank you. Please come on up.
Does this have anything to do with this book?
Well, yeah, because one of them is going to win this book. Okay. Anyway, so you guys put your two helpers together, one person on one team, one person on another team, and we're going to watch. That means all of you are going to watch, and then you're going to decide who wins the book, okay? And now I know about this because I lost in a martini making contest doing this kind of thing, and I was robbed, to tell you the truth, because the criteria was this: who shook that martini better? And this was in Atlanta.
Oh.
And I want to tell you something. My shaking was a heck of a lot better than the woman that I was up against.
Before or after you were drinking the martinis?
After we drank the martini. But this was before. All right. So, a few other things that I wanted to mention, and that is, we're starting off right now. You're listening to Great Taste on KRUU 100.1 FM, the solar-powered voice of Fairfield, Iowa. And it's 7 o'clock on August 7th at the At-Home Store. The At-Home Store and KRUU present a pie-making class with Beth Howard, author of Making Peace, a memoir of love, loss, and pie. This is her book. It's a magnificent book. If you haven't, anybody read this book? It's fantastic. It's really it's really well written and very, very interesting. So this cost of the class is $28, includes a piece of pie. Will be available to autographed books that you can purchase at the store. So for reservations, call 472-1016 or drop by the At-Home Store. All right. We have another special guest who's here. Came all the way from San Francisco, and I'd love for him to come up. Rob Ferguson has dropped by because he is going to tell us a little bit about something that he's currently involved in. Rob is of the Native Grains Baking Company. Welcome to Great Taste.
Thank you.
Happy to have you here.
Hi, hello. Oh.
And Rob and his team have created a new food concept called cruisers. And cruisers are superfoods, so-called for their nutritional qualities, and then baked in a ready-to-eat single handheld dough.
Exactly.
And cruisers, according to your information, represent a breakthrough in the fast food category, which would be nice to have, because it would be nice to have a breakthrough. So why are you in Fairfield? Not to do a commercial for cruisers.
Sure. Well, first of all, I am thrilled with your town. Congratulations on having an incredible community. I came from California. It's my first visit to your town, and I love it here. Got here last night, and I don't want to leave. I like everything about it, and I like the community. I like the way it looks. I like the people I've met. So my second goal, we need to get into production. And I'm hoping to start up a production company here to where cruisers can be baked and shipped. So that's the other main.
Wow, that's really great.
That'd be great.
That's going to be good. It's cruisers are a creation that came about 5 years ago. I was over 300 pounds, and I had 7 prescription drugs, and I was very unhealthy. And my doctor said I'm going to die in a short period of time. I had severe type 2 diabetes. I had high blood pressure, high cholesterol, all these different things. And so I had to change my lifestyle, and I noticed how challenging it was because I just ate whatever. When I was hungry, I ate, and I love to eat, and it's easy. And I always like to cook, I always like to bake, but I couldn't find these superfoods that I was reading about. They were saying, in order to really get healthy, you have to have whole grains, whole milled grains preferably. You had to have quinoa, you had to have flax and chia, and you had to eat all these superfoods. And I started accumulating a list of superfood ingredients. And I said, what can I do with all this stuff to make it easy? So I began to play with different doughs, as in breads, and I began to serve those to my friends and people that would use them as doorstops and so forth because they were very, very heavy. And finally began to find a path towards making these superfoods palatable. Then I mixed up fillers with the dough, and to create a sandwich that we basically said, here's the dough, here's the filler, close it up, bake it, and when it comes out, you've got something. Now my son said, you know what? He sees people eating these things in one hand, going down the street on their cruiser bicycle, eating these things because it's cruisers. It came. And so you can see the hat I'm wearing today, and I was at a store earlier today, and the guy says, cruisers, what's that? I said, what's a type of sandwich? Oh, he says, I get it. Driving down the driving down the road on your bicycle, eating a sandwich in one hand, a cruiser. I said, that's exactly right. I can't wait to share that. So we have a vision of what we're going to do with this stuff. It's healthy fast food. You heat them, you eat them. We bake them with all whole organic ingredients. We freeze them so they don't have any problems of going bad. And we sell them just like that. We're at farmers markets right now, and we're at corporate sales and so forth, validating the fact that people like the stuff. Now we want to start producing in a big score.
Okay, so I just want to know one thing, because I'm all about how food tastes.
How does it
right?
taste?
Right. How does it taste? And all I've heard is chia seeds and whatever. And I'm like,
doorstops.
Right, and I'm doorstops, and I'm like,
Well,
okay.
So here it is 5 years later. I'm 175 pounds. So I lost 125 pounds. Thanks. And I have no medications.
You look very healthy.
I feel very healthy. Thank you. And a couple of years ago, I became a certified personal trainer, and I got out of the management consulting business. I was a management consultant for 40 years. That's all I did. And so I wanted to do something different with the rest of my life. And my son said, you know, this is going to be fun. We can really do something here. But if it doesn't taste good, we're wasting our time. So I said, tell you what, you make it taste good then. So David went into this, did some research, met a guy named Craig Ponsford, who is the absolute international authority on working with these grains. And he figured out a way to hydrate this stuff like you wouldn't believe. So today, I love going to the farmer's market. It's the poor man's focus group. And we have kids and adults and people of all kinds that come up. They taste it. They buy a hot one right there. They buy some frozen to take home. And they've come back week and week and week now to restock their fridge. So we're having a good time.
Interesting.
Do you have any with you?
You know, that's another story. I had shipped out about
see what they look like.
5 dozen sets. I had shipped out almost 5 dozen, and we sent them out to my host here in Fairfield, Chris Johnson, and they went to the other Chris Johnson in Fairfield, and so they're ruined. So we're going to come back soon. We're going to occupy the kitchen, and we're going to make a bunch of this stuff and have a party. But I did bring you a gift. In this is our official cruiser tote bag, and as you can see, it's lined.
Yes.
So that when people buy them hot at the farmer's market, they'll stay hot, or if they buy them frozen, they'll stay cold till they bring them home. And this is so you have to have your cruiser hat, your official cruiser hat.
Okay.
And of course,
Cruiser
you do go in the kitchen from time to time. So
Curtis
you've gotta have
Stone, you can't. You're buddy.
There
Oh yeah.
you go.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You
There.
are set.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're
It's
very
a pleasure.
welcome, Steve.
Good
Thank
luck.
you for having me.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Hope to see you all at Fairfield. We have a nice company here in town making these
That's
things,
very
so.
interesting because we certainly. How many people eat fast food? Raise your hand. Come on. Okay.
Yeah.
Would you be happy to have something that was a little healthier since you're going to eat it anyway? Absolutely. Okay.
That's the
Good.
story.
All right. There you
Thank
go.
you, Steve.
Okay.
Thank you
Take
very
care.
much.
All right. Well, speaking of that, huh? Yeah, that's right. The crew. The cruiser, right. The crew on cruiser. All right, so I want to tell everybody about next week, by the way. Yeah, is everybody watching? Are you watching our assistants here? I know everyone listening is watching, so therefore, it's really important that the audience watches. All right, what's your name again? I'm sorry.
Charlie?
Charlie. Let's hear it for Charlie. How's Charlie doing? Charlie's doing good? Okay, all right. And what's your name? Almush. Let's hear it for Almush. Okay, Almush, you've got to really do some work, it looks like. You better keep chopping because Charlie's got you so far. So,
Well,
everybody
how do you
keep
know
watching.
that?
I can hear the difference in the volume. It's like you got to watch, see what's happening. Very, 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 very important. Next week on Great Taste, we're coming to you live from Hy-Vee again. Yes, okay, we're he's making me walk back into the range of the video camera. I don't like that. But we're coming live from Hy-Vee again, and we have a really fun show planned because Dennis Lopp, who's the catering manager here at Hy-Vee, is going to be communicating to everybody how you can kick part of your sweet habit. How many people have a sweet habit? That's almost everyone, right. So Dennis is going to give you some helpful points on how you can kick your sweet habit by grilling fruit. And he's going to show you all kinds of different ways to grill fruit. Then, also on the show, Ms. Kathleen Dubois is the queen of summer salads with all kinds of good grains. And so she's going to prepare a couple of her specialties, right? Mm-hmm. That's your mic, you can use it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, excellent.
I think I'm going to make a summer lentil salad, a French salad that I...
What about the quinoa one also? Can you do that one?
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, I'm making the quinoa
Excellent.
salad as well.
Excellent. So, and lots of fruits. Dennis, what type of fruit are you have to go over there?
I'm going to do a grilled watermelon and onion salad, so it's a little more on the savory side as well as the sweet. And then for the non-vegetarians in the room, I have a really good peach and bacon dish that I like to do on the grill, and it's fantastic.
Sounds really wonderful. So that's next week on Great Taste, right here on Crew 100.1 FM, the solar-powered voice of Fairfield, Iowa, and at Hy-Vee. So join us live or catch the stream if you like. How's it going over here? Kurt, how's the progress of the dishes?
We're getting there with the tortilla. They're mixing it together right now. Sarah started sauteing the potatoes, and now she's sauteed the onions. We're mixing that into a bowl with about 8 eggs in it.
So what's important to understand is that you have to saute the potatoes. Are they soft then, Sarah?
Yeah, you don't want to fry them up till golden brown. You just want to kind of sweat them in the oil until they're soft enough so that when you cook the tortilla with the eggs in it, you don't have to overcook the eggs in order to get the potatoes cooked all the way through.
Okay.
And the same thing with the onions.
Okay. And then you're going to put the eggs, you're mixing them all up together?
Yes. Everything, we've mixed the fried potatoes and the fried onions in with the eggs, and then I'm going to put them back on the stove and cook a tortilla.
Okay, so your helpers have finished their tasks, right? So let's hear it again for Charlie. And let's hear it again for Almush. Personally, I think it's a tie. What do you guys think? I think it's definitely a tie. So, Almush, if you'll give me your address and your phone number, I will get another book for you because we have another one that we'll give to you. And Charlie can walk away with that one for tonight. Thank you both very much for helping us, okay? So, great. And also, Dennis, would you mind passing around? There's the clipboard back there, and everybody who wants to can put their email address on there. Print it, please. If you'd like to hear what's coming up on Great Taste every week, all you have to do is put your name and your email, and we'll be happy to let you know what's going on. And as I said, print it because it's really difficult otherwise for me to read it. I'm surprised Jason hasn't said anything to me about walking outside of the camera range, but hopefully. All right, so the next thing I'd like to do is I'd like to call on our Spanish students again who came from Spain just a couple of weeks ago and tell us a little bit about some of those experiences that you had. And I'm very curious as to two things, what the most important things you learned in the kitchen and what was the most important thing you learned about the culture and the people.
Well, I think the most important thing I learned in the kitchen in Spain was that to utilize all of your ingredients. Here we kind of throw our odds and ends, but in Spain they really respect all of their food, all of the ingredients, the cost that it costs them, and they utilize everything. We ate every part of the animal in Spain. I'll tell you, we ate kidneys, we ate hearts, we ate feet, we ate pig snouts. They make everything.
I see some people, yeah, right. Some people passing out, right? But it's true. It's Europe especially, all throughout Europe. They're very and always have been. Here it's a fad now. The whole thing from snout to tail, and you have restaurants that are specializing in that type of thing. But it's still it's like the in thing. Whereas this is a way of life for people who haven't been privileged to have so much always on their table and have had to utilize everything all the time. So this is just a normal way of life.
It looks like your oil's ready.
Okay. So if it's ready, she's going to work on it. And Sonny?
Probably the most important thing I learned in the kitchen is, as well as Sarah said, is how they use their ingredients. And it's not just the snouts and all the way to the tail. They use stale bread to thicken soups and stuff like that. I mean, I would have never thought of that, but when I went there, we had this puff pastry cream, we had this soup, we had this gazpacho that they use bread to thicken it. And that's probably the most important thing that I learned is anything that you have, you can probably use and use it good, because over there they don't throw anything away. They use everything, and they don't waste anything, even to the last drop.
I think that's really one of the most difficult things, even in terms of buying stuff at the grocery store. We were, like a few weeks ago, I think we started trying to experiment where we didn't buy something until we'd used everything up that we had in the fridge. Because otherwise it just seems like stuff gets pushed to the back. Everybody notices that, right? And you just find it someday when there's a smell that's permeating the kitchen, and you're kind of like, what's that? And it's something it's in a drawer somewhere, and my wife is great at smelling things and going, I think there's something rotting in the fridge.
I know. I'm always, every time I go over to your house, I'm telling you, your refrigerator is scary because it's stuffed with food. And you never know what's kind of back behind this layer and that layer and that layer.
I have a compulsion to buy things. When I see food that looks beautiful, I can't stay away from it. It's just like I have to have it.
But it's nice. It's really great because right now we have the farmers market on Wednesday and Saturday. So it's really, you can really plan it so that you're just getting enough vegetables for a few days.
Right. And in between, also, Hy-Vee is really great about having local produced food. I bought some tomatoes here the other day and some, I think, zucchini and cucumber when it was in between time. So that's always a great thing. Mm-hmm, so it's nice to have. And it was really really funny to talk with Curtis Stone in Atlanta because he was so effusive about Hy-Vee, and it was a kick. And then he said there were several hundred people there watching him, and he said, "How many people are here from Iowa?" And one woman raised her hand. So that was not too many of us were present.
I'm finding this tortilla kind of interesting because I would have assumed if you're making tortilla that you would have done a thinner layer. Is that? But you do a thick layer here. Is that right?
Yes, we do. What we're going to do.
How does it cook through?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to cook it halfway through, and then I'm going to take this plate and set it on top. I'm going to flip it. I'm going to put it back in the pan and cook the other side.
Great.
I can't wait to watch that.
And you've got everybody watching you.
I did it once in Spain and I didn't mess it up, so.
Good.
That'll be great. Now, what else is being prepared? Have we got some other things going, Kurt?
The Moore-style chickpea and spinach stew. I'm actually right now, what I've done is I've taken 6 cloves of garlic that were peeled and put them in about a quarter cup of olive oil in a saute pan on a very low heat and sauteed them for about 3 minutes until they're just getting brown. And then pull your garlic out, and with your warm saute pan, you take slices of bread and you start browning each side of the bread. And as the bread browns, it also takes on some of that olive oil. We'll use that later on to make a paste to add to the stew itself, also with some saffron and
some pimenton, some Spanish
pimenton,
roasted peppers, right?
Yep.
That'll be lovely. One of the things also, anyone who signs that list, I'll be happy to send you the recipes. We have all the recipes from tonight's show, and we'll be glad to send them to you in a PDF form afterwards. Ms. Dubois, I was wondering, can you tell us a little bit about some of the food experiences that you love to have in your mind, the things that you go to all the time? Because people are always looking for, how many of you are always looking for things to make? You're just kind of like, what am I going to make tonight kind of thing. How many people are looking for, yeah, almost everybody. So what are some of your go-tos in terms of helping people out a little bit?
It's interesting because today I had 4 women for lunch, or 4 women for lunch, and
how were they? Did they taste good?
And I haven't really been cooking that much lately. I've been in Florida. I was in Florida for 6 months, and I was eating out quite a bit. And it just seems like, for the most part, I'm just throwing something together for myself. And especially in the summer, it's so easy to do that. Just eating a really good peach, or with cottage cheese, or a salad, or the cucumbers, things like that are really, really good right now. Today I made burgers, which I think I've shared with the audience a couple of times. I make a vegetarian burger with 4 ingredients. It's cheddar cheese, chili powder, nuts, ground nuts, and a rice mixture, the Lungberg Farm rice mixture. And that's really good. It's really flavorful, and I often put smoked paprika in that. So I just make those. I made 10 of them today and used 5 of them, and the 5 are in the freezer. Pasta is always a go-to, just sautéing vegetables simply, and then adding at the end maybe some arugula, some Parmigiano Reggiano, some olive oil. Really good ingredients are key to have in your pantry, as we've talked about before. Really good salts to finish a dish with. Grains, quinoa, vegetables. What else have I been cooking lately?
I think the most important things that you're bringing out are that food can be very simple, and it doesn't have to take forever to make something. Matter of fact, when I want to make something quickly, I just go to pasta, because it's just so simple and easy to do and flavorful. And right now, over and over again, I'm making the same pasta because it's what we have an abundance of right now, which is fresh tomatoes, absolutely wonderful tomatoes. And then I also use capers, because capers are just great. You should always buy salted capers, though. Don't buy the vinegar capers.
We're having...
Oh, let's watch Sarah. And if you're and if you're listening, let me describe what's happening. Sarah's trying to get her omelet out. It's okay.
Maybe
Kurt will help. So, We should have a drum roll right now, but it'll.
Is it hot? Are you okay?
So
Maybe
the omelet, the tortilla is not cooperating.
So maybe
at
it's
all.
not the right pan. Is it?
But
maybe,
it's going to be delicious.
Maybe she needs more of a skillet, an iron skillet.
Let's go back to the pasta. So the simple thing about this is to take, and not bad.
That's a problem with having a live audience, because I remember one time we made dipped strawberries. And we had made a number of things, and all of them turned out really well, except for the dipped strawberries. And on radio, we just said, "Oh, these are delicious."
Unfortunately, Jason's here, and you can't do that on this show. That's for sure. So I want to tell you about this pasta because anybody can go make this and make it in just a few minutes. And that is that fresh tomatoes, capers. There are so many varieties of squash available right now. Patty pan, tromboncino, zucchini, different types of Italian squashes, yellow squash, just on and on and on. So if you just take those and cut them up into smaller pieces and saute them for a little while in some olive oil and maybe a little fresh garlic, it's wonderful. And then set them aside to cool a little bit. And then Parmesan cheese, Parmigiano Reggiano, grated.
Herbs are really a great thing.
Lots of fresh basil, tons of fresh basil.
And just starting your dishes, if you're in your olive oil, starting with the rosemary that's minced or another herb, and then finishing with it as well. So you've got a layer of flavor in your dish, and then you're finishing it with a fresh layer as well.
So this particular time period, I don't cook the tomatoes at all. They're just too wonderful. There's no need to cook them. So what I do is I just take the zucchini or different kinds of squashes that are already done, that have been cooked in a little bit of olive oil and some garlic and salt, of course, and a little pepper, and put them in the bottom of a warmed salad bowl. And then I take my pasta out, put it on top of that, and then I throw in all the other ingredients, the tons of tomatoes, chopped up tomatoes, and lots of Parmesan cheese and capers and olives even, and then at the very end the basil, and toss it all together, and it's absolutely delicious. Finish it off with another grind of pepper and a little bit of sprinkle of olive oil, and you have just a fantastic dish, really simple and delicious.
And one of the most important things in making pasta is to make sure it's not overcooked.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you make sure it's really al dente, and then you can finish it in your skillet if you're doing vegetables in olive oil. You can finish it in there with a little bit of the water, the starchy water from the pasta, and it will coat really nicely and cook for another minute.
Avi Pogel's here. Avi is I don't know how many of you know him, but he's a terrific chef. And maybe you have a couple of things that you're going to right now that are just like, boom, you just want to make.
Give me a second to think about that.
Yeah, you can have a second. Meantime, you're listening to Great Taste on KRUU LP 100.1 FM, the solar-powered voice of Fairfield, Iowa. We are the most delicious 60 minutes on the radio, and we thank you for being here live at Hy-Vee, listening to the show.
We harvested our fingerling potatoes last week, so we have all these great potatoes, which are this wonderful size, so that you can, they're bite-sized, and you don't really have to do anything to them. And if you parboil them until they're al dente, you can just barely, pierce them with a fork, and then maybe cut them in half, depending on the size, and saute them in a really hot skillet until you brown the skin, and then set those aside and make a nice sharp aioli using plenty of garlic. I even throw an anchovy in there, and it just picks up the flavor even more. It gets that umami, and you eat it. And unfortunately, it takes a lot of olive oil to make aioli, and you do it by hand. It's a little bit labor intensive, so you only get about a cup of it, and then you're feeding 5 people, and you all have to kind of fight to get the most aioli because everybody just wants to just soak it up with those potatoes. So that's a really great thing to do right now, especially because we just harvested the garlic, harvested the potatoes, and if we were in Italy or Spain, we might have harvested our olives now. I don't really know.
No, probably a little bit later. But what about also one other thing, the technique of parboiling? Can you just go over it real fast?
It depends on the vegetable. Like if you're going to be and for potatoes, as we're talking about, put them in the water with a little bit of salt, and then bring that to a boil. Don't drop them into boiling water because it'll cook the outside really quickly. It'll actually be, past the point where you'd even want it for mashed potatoes, but then the inside is still going to be raw. So it needs to be absorbing the heat from the water as the water is heating up. And by the time it comes to a boil, especially when you're talking about fingerlings, which are only about that big, it's really only 2 to 3 minutes, 5 minutes at most, that they need to be in there. And then when you drain it, run cold water on it, shock it, stop that cooking process, because you're just looking for them to be warmed through, and you're going to be finishing them in the skillet where you get to brown them, and they taste awesome.
Nice.
I did
that was a joke because Avi browns everything. So
I did a similar thing today with potatoes. They were smashed potatoes, and I parboiled them, and then let them cool, and smashed them in with my hands, and stuck them in a very, very hot, preheated baking pan in the oven. First mixing them with olive oil and salt and pepper, and there's salt in the water. But then putting them in this hot baking dish in the oven, and it crisps them from on the outside. It's not the best way to cook in the summer because the oven was at 475. But I think just what Avi's saying was just the simple things that the fresh things that we have right now with simple preparations, just using olive oil and salt and herbs with potatoes or white beans or tomatoes or whatever is what you could go
for example, another thing, pesto is great right now because there's so much basil around, and again, it's an easy thing to do. All you're doing is taking some basil, some olive oil, some salt, some Parmigiano Reggiano, and some, if you want, you can put some garlic in it. If you want, you can put some nuts in it. Pine nuts is traditional, but I don't even bother with the pine nuts because it just makes it heavy and you can't get decent pine nuts anyway. By the way, did anybody bring me pine nuts back from Spain? They were supposed to. No. Uh-oh. You guys need to go back right now. Anyway, it's very, very simple to make pesto, and it's absolutely delicious to use on a fresh pasta dish. All right, what's happening, Kurt?
What's happening over here?
Kurt?
We finished doing our bread for our paste, and we put the papillon in the hot skillet, and you've got to immediately add some sherry wine vinegar. Keep that papillon from burning up and smoke.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a mixer happening right now, and you've got sherry vinegar, right?
Yeah,
that's what's in there.
Yeah,
so we're going to get to taste all of this in just a little while. That's the good part. Anybody have anything that they'd like to share with everybody who's listening, and also you want to ask a question? Hold on. Kathy will come over with the microphone. But hold on 1 second. Kathy will come over with the microphone. Okay.
Huh?
I'd like to ask Avi Pogel how he makes his aioli.
The question was, how do you make your aioli?
So, I learned how to do this from a recipe book on Catalonian cooking. It's a region of Spain. And take a stone mortar and pestle, take 2 cloves of garlic, and mince them up, and then put them in the mortar and pestle with a pinch of coarse kosher salt or sea salt, and that acts as an abrasive. Grind that into a paste, and then separate an egg, free-range egg. You don't want to just use some nasty thin-shelled thing, and then blend that with the pestle into that garlic until it turns pale and it starts to thicken in and of itself, and then put a few drops of lemon juice in and keep on doing, mashing it, spinning it, whipping it, whatever. Emulsifying it. And then with your olive oil, pour it in literally a drop at a time. And if you accidentally, put in more than a drop, just don't worry, keep on going, but don't add any more until it emulsifies and it's included into the aioli. And if the aioli breaks, which can happen if you're not careful, the temperature's not right, you didn't have enough garlic, something like that, then pour the whole thing out, start with another egg yolk, and just start it again, and then pour the broken aioli back into the mortar and pestle and just keep on going. And I've never made it so that it turns out as thick as like store-bought mayonnaise, but I think that would just require more oil and more whipping.
And you do it with a food processor?
You can, and sometimes it's easier to do with the food processor, but at the same time, it's also easier to mess up with the food processor. So it'll happen more quickly, but if you don't get it just right, it'll break faster. And so doing it, I made this dish hundreds of times, and only once has it broke when I'm doing it by hand, and probably a quarter of the time it breaks when I do it in the machine. So.
Other questions? Anybody have any other questions? No, you just want to eat, right? Okay. Well, they're
smelling good.
They're working on it. That's for sure.
So let's see what's just happened.
Kurt, you want to tell us a little bit about now what you've done here?
Okay. The standard recipe calls for making it using the bowl and mortar set to make the paste from this. The same with like mixing your aioli at food processor. This is the more modern way to go, but then again, your texture is just a little bit different. So I was trying to pulse that down into a paste with the garlic and basically the oil-soaked toast out of our pan, and then we'll blend that with our spices that we hit with the red wine vinegar, and that'll all wind up into the stew with the chickpeas and spinach.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to say, you can imagine how flavorful this is going to be, because you've done
Yeah,
so
I've
much.
gotten a little taste of that, and I'm wanting to get it all together because I haven't had it before. So.
Are you finished with the pimenton, by the way?
Yes.
Can we pass it around? I would like everybody, I don't know how many people are familiar with this ingredient, but I think it would be wonderful to pass this around and let everybody smell it, because it's a very special ingredient that you can use in all kinds of... Yeah, you could put, you know what, Kath, put a little bit in a bowl, and then people can just pass the bowl around. And it's a really special ingredient that you can use in all kinds of foods, not just Spanish food, all kinds of different things. It's roasted peppers, but it's a special pepper. It's called La Vera Pimenton, which is the true roasted peppers of Spain. And it's really... Yeah, I think you can get it here, I'm pretty sure. I didn't check the shelves, but I'm pretty sure you can. Yes, you can, matter of fact. I remember now from a couple of weeks ago that I found it on the shelf.
It's an amazing ingredient. It just
really
adds
good.
so much flavor.
So I wanted to just talk for a few minutes and tell you a little bit about what's going on food-wise, because we like to tell everybody about the scene that's happening all over. I was just in Atlanta over the weekend, and I don't know how many people actually read the blog post this week, but it was quite extraordinary for me because I was at a pizza place called Antico, and they actually had an on-duty cop there to take care of crowd control. It was like, I've never been to a pizza place in my life that you had to worry about crowd control.
Sounds like Studio 54.
It reminded me of a nightclub, because here's the owner standing at the door, and two people walk out, two people go in. And it didn't matter, by the way, it didn't matter, whether you were dressed, nobody was dressed like they were going to a nightclub. So that didn't work. It was just like whoever was next got in. But it was just a crazy place, and Atlanta seems to be right now a real hotbed. I was noticing, trying to read some of the different articles about it. It's a real hotbed for Napolitana-style pizza right now. I don't know if it's just late to the game, that they didn't know that much about it, or what. But this place, that's all they do is serve pizza, and they've got 3 huge ovens cranking, that are wood-fired ovens, and people just making pizza until the dough runs out, and then they close the doors every night. So that's how it works. So it's a very interesting place. A couple other trends that I noticed when I was down there that were fascinating is that there's, again, farm to table, which is another thing that's been going on for a few years, but it's gotten much bigger in Atlanta over the last few years. And food trucks is huge in Atlanta. They've actually developed something that I thought was a fantastic concept, which is a real permanent food truck park. So that instead of having to find the food trucks, which happens in most cities, where they're tweeting, where they're going to be that day, and you have to go meet them, there's a park there's a farmer's market in the park once a week, and there are up to at least 15 food trucks permanently there. So if you're still planning your summer vacation and you're interested in a very interesting, different type of food scene, I think you can find some good things in Atlanta.
Did you go to
it was the one thing I didn't get to, was the food truck park. I really was disappointed that I didn't make it there, but time got away. It was a very short trip, and anyway, next time in Atlanta. But I did have plenty of grits while I was there, and plenty of biscuits, so it was definitely lots of fun.
So now we're doing the pork.
Yeah, okay, so this is the pork dish. Sonny, you want to tell everybody a little bit about this?
I'm doing a little variation on this because in Spain they have something called a thermomix. What it does is it blends, and it's kind of like a RoboCoupe, but it also heats at the same time. It also chills. It does a lot of magical things, but
Anybody
A
have one in their
robo-
kitchen or not?
a RoboCoupe basically purees things, and that's basically what the Thermomix does. But we did a puff pastry cream. We made a cream out of puff pastry and milk and a little bit of sugar, and it was probably the best thing that I've ever had over there.
Puff pastry cream.
Yes. What they did was they baked off the puff pastry, and they simmered milk and sugar together, and then they put the puff pastry in and until the puff pastry soaked up all the milk and sugars. And then after that, they put it in the Thermomix, added some butter, and let it mix. And it went from chunky to like a nice smooth cream. And but
Not something we can easily do at home, though.
yeah, not something you can easily do at home. But since we don't have a Thermomix, I'm just gonna cook the pork, and I'm gonna do the coffee reduction that was with it.
So a coffee reduction. How
Yes.
does that work?
They did a coffee. They just instant coffee with water and sugar and reduced it. But I'm gonna try to do it with cream, so you can get a little feel about the puff pastry cream. And what they did is they just reduced it until it's very like caramel, and they brushed it on a plate and set the suckling pig, the pork, and the cream next to it.
Sarah, can you tell us a little? Are you busy right now? You're kind of tied up. You can talk?
I talk.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about what you learned about the people of Spain and the culture.
The thing about the culture I noticed the most was how laid back and how much they really kind of enjoyed their lives. They didn't have any of kind of the drama that we have here in the United States. People just let each other live. They're so friendly. People will invite you into their homes to eat. People will do anything for you over there. It's completely different from the culture we have here, where everyone's kind of by themselves. It's a very friendly, open, accepting culture.
And Sonny, what about you? Did you have any kind of experiences like that, like Sarah's describing?
Culture-wise, I'd say that from them I learned like how to eat, and by that I mean here in the U.S. we have fast food joints everywhere, and they use processed foods and foods that are unhealthy for you. Whereas in Spain, you barely saw a fast food joint. Even their McDonald's they used some fresh ingredients. And by eating with the Spanish people, I learned to relax and just enjoy my food. And that's probably the best thing that I brought back with me.
I think that something that I've observed from traveling all over, and I don't know how people feel when they hear, people are so much more inviting and they really, want you to come and enjoy being with them and they'll have you in, and it's a lot different than here. But I don't find that to be the case, honestly. I think that wherever you are is a reflection of who you are. And if you are just totally open and fun, you're going to find anybody invite you in. People I hear all the time, New Yorkers are, they're not nice, and I've never experienced that. I've always found that New Yorkers are great, and that they're really, the people that I've met have been. And I think I even mentioned a couple of weeks ago on a show that this woman in Paris I was saying how I loved Paris, and I love the people in Paris, and I said, you're all so wonderful, and she said, no, we're not. But it's not true, because they are. And it's all a question of how you posture yourself. If you have a big smile on your face and you go out of your way, people are willing to share information no matter where they are and willing to invite you in. I can't believe the people that I met in Atlanta this past weekend. Every single person was just like so nice. I couldn't believe it. That's how I felt. It was like everybody was just smiling, and it wasn't like I was meeting people on vacation. These were people who were working. They had thousands of people that they were dealing with, and yet they were just really open, and it was a great breath of fresh air. So I think we live in a really great times for opportunity, and wherever you are, you can take advantage. And especially with the food culture and what's important to us and sharing food, that's really the way that you get to know people, is by sitting at the table and spending a few hours together. And so wherever you are, just invite yourself over to somebody's house, and they'll be happy to serve you. Unfortunately, we're drawing to a close for another great taste, so I better mention a few things again. On August 7th, The At Home Store and KRUU are presenting a pie making class with Beth Howard, author of Making Peace, a memoir of love, loss, and pie. Beth, by the way, lives in the American Gothic House in Eldon. So, yes, someone lives there, and Beth does that. It includes a piece of pie. Beth will also be available to autograph books that you can purchase at the store. So for reservations, call 472-1016 or drop by the At Home Store. Also, next week on Great Taste, it's Dennis Lopp talking about how to kick your sugar habit by grilling fruits, and Kathy Dubois talking and making a couple of delicious grain salads, one with lentils and one with quinoa. And they really are good, take my word for it. So you'll get a chance to sample those on the show. Before we finish and don't have any more time, I want to thank all of our guests, Rob Ferguson, the Indian Hills crew that's here. Thank you guys very much. Dennis Lopp and his staff in the Hy-Vee kitchen, Caleb Flynn and James Moore for their engineering know-how, and Mike Ragonia for introducing the show. And also thanks to Jason Strong of the Fairfield Media Center, who's here videoing this show, and eventually it will wind up on YouTube probably, where people can make comments like, who are those people that are doing this? And why are they making fools of themselves? So anyway, tell us a little bit about this, because I want to know how you made this. This is your tomato sauce?
That is, yes, my tomato sauce.
Okay.
I raised about 60 plants this summer, just varying varieties of tomato plants, and got out there last week and picked about 10 pounds of tomatoes, and added those to the couple I got the week before. Started cooking those down, adding my basil and oregano as I go. I start out with creating basically a roux with red and white onions and a stock pot with some oil. And I brown that, sweat that for a while, add a load of garlic to it.
A load? How much is that? A load?
It's probably about one of my handfuls. I've got a pretty good sized hand, so you gotta realize it cooks. I cook my sauce probably close to 6 hours. We're at a nice slow simmer for 6 hours. And with this one, I didn't discriminate on any tomatoes. I used the heirloom tomatoes that I raised down to the cherry tomatoes that I raised, Romas in between there, and peeled those down to get the peel out of there.
So you peel them. Did you seed them also?
No.
Okay, just peeled them.
Just peel them.
Right.
Because I can get the seeds to kind of cook in, and they kind of help out with texture. But the peels, I don't care for the texture. And then I add basil and oregano and a little more garlic and hot peppers, sweet banana peppers also that I got from my garden, and just keep cooking it. And then I also know how to can at home. And water bath canning is one of those easy things. Like you and I talked about doing that here next month when we're here. We'll do some salsa. Now's the right time to get into canning if you've thought about it. It's really neat what you can come up with. We were talking about easy meals earlier. That's my spaghetti sauce. So if I go home, I don't have to, and I usually like to make my fresh spaghetti sauce, but I've got it in a jar now.
And you can't taste this because it's gone home with me. Sorry.
We're going to follow you.
Yeah. So,
good idea.
In about 10 hours' time, I come up with about 19 quarts of sauce total. So, with adding juices, stuff, and breaking it down, building it back up, and just kind of adjusting flavors as you go. And that's the nice thing about making your own spaghetti sauce is you can adjust that flavor to your liking.
I want to thank all of you for coming and being with us on this particular version of Great Taste. Don't leave because you're going to get a chance to, those of you who are listening, you can leave, but those of you who are here, you're going to get a chance to taste all of this wonderful food in just a few minutes, and you're welcome to come up. And meantime, we're going to see you next week. Curtis Stone will be here with us, and we'll be back here at Hy-Vee live for Great Taste next week with Dennis Lopp and Kathy Dubois. And you've been listening to the most delicious 60 Minutes on the radio.